Yena tasmai Shri Gurudev Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam bhangum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Gurun dinataranam vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratishe Namaha. Nityanandam Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayane Kalo Kalmashanashaya Janava Pataye Namaha. Ajanulambita Bhujo Kanakavadato Samkirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Dvijavaro Jugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Brindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Gurudev Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Ashtatarashata Shri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. And then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudev's Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Shri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Shri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering my Dandavat Pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Shri Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga, and my Dandavat Pranams to all the Vaishnavis and Vaishnavas and friends and guests. Hare Krishna. Oh, I want to introduce our new friend. You can tell.
This is my friend Nathan. We lived in Japan together for 2 years.
Well, you were in the military.
In the military, in the Marines. Yeah. And then we both ended up getting stationed as well in North Carolina, so we've known each other since the beginning of our military career. And then when he found out I was here,
Because he lives right nearby in Fresno.
Yeah, he lives
Down the hill.
Yeah.
So coincidental. And you live in Fresno also?
Huh?
Very close.
Yeah, Vyala Prabhu
Yes.
lives in Fresno also, yeah.
So he might be a weekend guest of ours.
Yeah, very nice.
Yes, come.
Very nice.
Right.
So he's, quite new to our philosophy of Krishna consciousness and our movement and all of that. And this is a class, he knows that we're giving class for persons who have been studying longer, much longer. But whatever you can hear, and even if a question comes up, you can feel free to ask any question that comes. But otherwise, listening is good. Because we are speaking in the English language. Although there's a lot of foreign language words thrown in. But we're explaining it in English. Yes. So, we're continuing now with our study of Sri Upadeshamrita. Okay, and there was a question put forward this afternoon to me by two of our devotees here concerning the question that I asked yesterday. I asked a question to all of you who were here about, it was concerning the verse that we had read. I'm reading that verse again, then you can see if you remember the question, how I asked it. So this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya Lila, chapter 4, 2 verses. Bhajaner madhye shreshta navavidha bhakti, Krishna prem, Krishna dite, dhare maha shakti. So now, this first verse is describing about Navavidha Bhakti, which we've been talking about for days. What's Navavidha Bhakti? Nava means 9, and Vidha means types. 9 types of Bhakti, or also sometimes referred to as Angas. An Anga means a limb. Just like our body has arms, legs, these are Angas. So similarly, in the pathway of Krishna bhajan, worshipping Sri Krishna, there are 9 types of activities in the service of Krishna, which is called Navavidha Bhakti. 9 types of bhakti. What are those? See, you can say it like that because you know the shloka. That helps a lot. It helps a lot. Because it's hard to remember in the order. But when you have the shloka there, very easy. Even if your mind is somewhere else, you can still answer the question, what is Navavidha Bhakti? Right? So let's all say the verse together. Some of you know it partially, some of you know it completely, some of you don't know it at all. But we're all going to say it together. Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu smaranam padasevanam archanam vandanam dasyam sakyam atma nivedanam. So I'm going to say the Sanskrit word and you're going to tell me the English for it. Shravanam. Shravanam, then kirtanam. Vishnu. Vishnu. The word Vishnu is there. If there's no word Vishnu there, it's not bhakti. Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu. So Prahlad Maharaj has told about, this is Shravanam kirtanam about Krishna. And if it's about anyone else, it is not bhakti. So, Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu, which means Krishna also. Now, Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu smaranam. Remembering. Thinking about. Smaranam. Padasevanam. What is that? Worshipping the lotus feet. What does that entail?
Well, I suppose in a very practical sense of Arjan,
Yeah,
doing abhishek of the feet of Krishna,
yeah.
but also to really worship the feet of Krishna, then you have to be chanting and hearing and remembering and doing all this.
It's all.
Our goal, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told in the 5th shlok of the Sikshastakam, Ai Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Budho Kripaya Nija Pada Pankaja Stita Dhuli Sadrisham Vichintaya. You know?
Then you remain at the dust at your lotus feet.
Yeah, but what's the verse? What's Mahaprabhu telling?
So no,
Ai Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram. Ai is kind of like, oh alas. Ai Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram. He's saying, oh son of Nanda Maharaj, Krishna, Nanda Tanuja, Kinkaram. I am your Kinkaram, your servant. I am your eternal servant. That's who and what I am. Ai Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Budho.
very fine.
Well, in what way? He's spelling it out. Mahaprabhu is completely spelling out. He's saying, although I am your eternal servant, O son of Maharaj Nanda, but patitam mam vishame bhavam budho. This means I have fallen. Patitam means I have fallen. Where? Vishame bhavam budho. Bhavam budho means the ocean of material existence. And he says Vishame. This means this horrible, horrible ocean of material existence. I've fallen into this ocean of material existence. We were talking today in our room that all the living entities in this world, they are going through repeated birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. So the devotee is praying, Mahaprabhu is praying in this mood that, oh Krishna, I am your eternal servant. He's understood at this point that really he is the eternal servant. This is how the devotee will think and feel when the devotee comes into the stage of asakti. This verse is describing the stage of asakti. Right? So, I have fallen into this ghastly, horrible ocean of material existence. Why is he using the word ocean? Bhavam buddhi, ambudhi. Ambudhi means ocean. Of bhava. Bhava means this material world. So, why is he referring to the material world as an ocean? Think about it.
You have no control of the waves when you're in the ocean. You just get tossed around.
Correct? Yes. And it's also vast. Very vast. And suppose somebody falls into the ocean. Is it possible for them to rescue themselves? Even if they're a Navy SEAL and they can swim for miles? No. Because there's no shelter. So, I have fallen into this unlimited ocean of material existence. But I'm begging to you, O my Lord, Kripaya, Kripaya, please be merciful to me. Nija Pada Pankaja. Nija Pada Pankaja means your very own 2 lotus feet. Nija Pada Pankaja. He's asking, Kripaya Nija Pada Pankaja Stita dhuli sadrisham vichintaya. Please pick me up from this ocean of material existence and place me as a tiny, like a tiny atomic particle at your lotus feet. This is padasevanam, in one way, serving the lotus feet of Krishna, realizing that the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord are the only shelter. There is no other shelter. He can give shelter to infinite jivas, and he's doing it all the time, eternally. That's how capable he is. He has no difficulty at all maintaining trillions, zillions, unlimited numbers of living entities. Why? Because he's the absolute infinite supreme being. His power, his ability, his shakti, his energy, everything is infinite. Infinite. You see? So, in that prayer, he's praying to be situated eternally at the lotus feet of Krishna. When Mahaprabhu described to Rupa Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Rupa Siksha, his teachings to Rupa Goswami, he also explained the growth of this bhakti lata, the vine, the creeper of devotion, of love for Krishna, and how it grows, and it just keeps on growing. It's situated in the heart of the devotee. And it keeps on growing and growing, and it goes beyond all the higher planets of this universe, beyond Svargalok and all the upper planetary systems. Then it pierces through the covering of the material universe and continues on across the Viraja. What is the Viraja? The Viraja is the separating river, Vaitarani, the river that separates the material universe from the spiritual universe. There, the modes of material nature are completely suspended. This is where the Brahmavadis want to be. So, but the creeper of the Bhakti Lata does not stop there. It continues into Vaikuntha, into the Vaikuntha region, which is called Paravyom, the infinite Vaikuntha sky, where there are infinite Vaikuntha planets that are each bigger than our own universe. Oh, just a planet bigger than our universe. So that Vaikuntha region, the Bhakti Lata does not stop growing. It continues on, and it comes to where? Goloka Vrindavan, the highest spiritual planet in the creation. And there, Mahaprabhu is describing that this creeper of devotion now approaches Sri Krishna's lotus feet and winds itself around the lotus feet of Krishna, where it produces the fruits of Krishna praying. And that devotee relishes and tastes those fruits eternally. This is how Mahaprabhu describes. So, how to get there? Vajaner Madhya Shreshta Navavidha Bhakti. Of all the different types of bhajan, and there are 64, Navavidha Bhakti is Shreshta. It is the topmost, it is the best. These 9 limbs of bhakti is the best. Then he says, Krishna praying, Krishna dite dhare mahashakti. Mahashakti means great power. Power to do what? To give Krishna praying. And not only that, to give Krishna himself. Here it says, among all forms of bhajan, the 9 limbs of bhakti are best, for they have the great power to bestow both Krishna Prem and Krishna. Then the next line, the next verse, is talking about what I asked the question yesterday. Tar madhye sarva shreshta nam samkirtan. This means amongst those 9 limbs, sarva shreshta, the very topmost and best of these 9 limbs is nam samkirtan. What does nam samkirtan mean?
Congregational chanting.
Yes. But not only congregational. It does refer to that. Samkirtan. But also the word samkirtan comes from the Sanskrit samyak, which means complete. Complete kirtan. Complete kirtan. If a pure Vaishnava is chanting on his own, this is always nam samkirtan, because it is the absolute pure chanting of Krishna's pure name. So, amongst all the 9 limbs, nam samkirtan is the shreshta, sarva shreshta, the very, very topmost and best limb of bhakti. That's why in this age of Kali, Mahaprabhu has introduced the process of samkirtan, Sri Krishna samkirtan. He himself demonstrated by singing the holy names of Krishna. The Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You see on our altar here, on this, to the left, there are 2 figures. And these 2 figures are deity forms, Archa-vigraha forms, of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who appeared on our earth planet a little over 500 years ago. And they started this spiritual movement called the Samkirtan movement. That's why you see that they're dancing. They have their arms like this and they're dancing and singing, you see. So that simple and very blissful process was introduced for this age of Kali. This is the Yuga Dharma, for this age that we're living in. There is no other Dharma other than Nam Samkirtan. This is the Dharma which only will be able to give this process of pure love for Krishna. So, in the practice of Navavidha Bhakti, most prominent is the chanting of Krishna's holy names. We need to bring another chair from the other room there.
There's one from outside. There's one outside.
No, we have so many. So, now, here's the main point in this line. After he says that out of all the different limbs of bhakti, Nam Samkirtan is the best, then the next line is telling, Nir aparadhe nam loile pai premadhan. What does nir aparadhe mean? Without aparadhe. Nir aparadhe. Nam loile means if someone chants. Nam loile means to take the holy name, to chant, with nir aparadhe, without offenses, then pai prem dhan. One easily receives the treasure of pure love for Krishna. Pai prema dhan. So dhana means wealth, treasure. Prema dhan means the great wealth of Krishna prem, in comparison with nothing else can even hold a candlestick to this wealth of Krishna prema. It is so valuable. And if we study Srimad Bhagavatam, we will see how all the demigods, all the topmost demigods in our universe, they are praying to have this Krishna prema. Not only that, Lord Brahma himself even descended in the Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Haridas Thakur. And Mahaprabhu, he gave him the title, Nam Acharya, the one who is showing the example of chanting the holy names purely. Nam Acharya, with great humility. Nam Acharya Haridas. Even he was born in a Muslim family, but Mahaprabhu considered him topmost Vaishnava, and so did Sri Advaita Acharya, you see. So, in this way, we read this yesterday, and then I posed the question. Do you remember what the question was now?
You asked a few questions sometimes.
Okay, well this one was concerning what we just read. I says, do you all believe that this is true? That what is being told here, that this is true? Is that the question I asked? Yes, you remember? Because you asked me about that before. What did I mean by that, right? Isn't that what you asked me? How did you put it?
No, I didn't put it right. But I think the question was, do you believe that by chanting the holy name you can get Krishna prema? That's exactly what he says.
Okay, yes.
But you know, the thing is if you're not, if you have, I guess it's a degree of faith or something.
Of course it is.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all.
There's lots of considerations here.
Oh, okay.
But the simple statement is here, Nir aparadhe loile. If you chant the Nam without any offenses, Nam loile, Nir aparadhe, without aparad, pai premadan, you will attain the great wealth, the great treasure of Krishna prema. So that was my question. That was my question. I think I just spontaneously asked that question. Do you believe this? This seems quite simple. You chant the holy name without offense, you get Krishna prema. Do you believe that? Dear God, brother? Do you believe that?
I didn't believe that the holy name would be chanted in all villages until it really happens. I didn't believe it.
Okay, but what about this?
Well, because I'm not chanting without operads, I have a hard time accepting that.
Yeah, but I don't understand why you should have a hard time accepting that if you chant without offenses, you get Krishna prema.
No, I believe it.
That's my question. You believe that?
What did he say?
But can I ask a question?
Just wait 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah. This is our Krishna consciousness evangelism. Do you believe? Huh? Do you believe?
Yes.
And then you have to push them and they fall back and you catch them. They've been saved. Do you believe?
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Do you believe?
Yeah, so faith, of course, faith with Shraddha, that's already been told in various other verses. Because faith is the most important element. The number one most important element. What's the word for faith? Shraddha. Shraddha. And what is Shraddha? Now we're going to examine the definition verse of Shraddha again. We've told this before. It's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shraddha shabde vishvas kohe sudridha nishchay. Krishna bhakti koile sarva karma krita hoy. So here it's telling the word Shraddha. Shraddha shabde. Shabda means sound, means word. So this word, Shraddha. What does it mean? Vishvas kohi. Vishvas means believe, to believe something. Vishvas. And sudridha nishchay. Sudridha means very, very firm. Sudridha. Firm belief. And nishchay means certainty. With absolute certainty, absolute belief. Now, what is it that you're believing? Here it says that you have to have this kind of firm belief, firm faith. In what?
That Krishna is our only protector?
No.
Oh.
No. That's a different topic. But it's good that you're saying that. So, here's what you have to have firm faith in, if it is to be called Shraddha. Krishna bhakti koile. Sarva Karma kritohoy. Sarva Karma means all of your various duties that you have to perform in your life on all different levels. Sarva Karma, all activities that are required. Sarva Karma kritohoy means they'll all be accomplished. How? If you do Krishna Bhakti. Krishna Bhakti koile. By performing Krishna Bhakti, by performing Bhakti to Krishna, Sarva Karma kritohoy. Someone who believes this, that if I don't do Bhakti to Krishna in my life, everything is useless. And if I do Bhakti to Krishna in my life, everything is successful. I don't have to separately endeavor for this and that. You see? So, faith, Shraddha, is the very basis. That's why Srila Rupa Goswami, in describing the stages of bhakti, he begins with Shraddha. Ado, Shraddha. Ado means beginning with. Beginning with Shraddha. Ado Shraddha, tatak sadhu sangha, atavajana kriya, anartha nivritti, nishta, ruchi, asakti, bhav, and finally prema. These are the stages. The Shraddha has to be there, continually developing, more and more. Little water. It has to be developing. Shraddha has to be developing more and more. Because it's the foundation. So, actually what is taking place, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has explained. Sorry. So, Shraddha is the foundation. And actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has explained that what is taking place in the course of this development is the developing of Shraddha into prema. Shraddha itself is the last fraction of prema. I've mentioned this before, Gurudev told. That's what Shraddha is. It's nothing other than that. It is actually a particle of prema. And by the mercy of the Supreme Lord, through sadhu sangha, over lifetimes, this becomes situated in the heart of a very fortunate jiva, is this thing called Shraddha. Without that, no one can make any spiritual progress, without Shraddha. All you can do is get Sukriti, either Gyata Sukriti or Agyata Sukriti. But you must have Shraddha in order to perform bhakti. Okay? And even if that bhakti, like yesterday we were talking about, different types of bhakti, of how the mixed bhakti is not really bhakti, but it is called Mishra bhakti because it's mixed. And that's also acceptable for those who are neophyte devotees. If they can do some mixed bhakti, that's why Srila Prabhupada used the term dovetailing. He came up with that term of dovetailing. So dovetailing means, actually I don't even know what the origin of that word is in the English language, to dovetail.
With a dove.
Yeah, right. So, but the thing is, it means that you're aiming to do one thing, but you also have another thing that you want to do. So you dovetail that thing with this other. So, and yesterday I used the term aropa, right? Aropa siddha bhakti. Aropa siddha bhakti. That means that you are superimposing your desire to do something, you're superimposing it onto bhakti, right? For example, I like to garden, so I'm going to grow a garden, and I'm going to grow the garden for Krishna. So the degree to which you're growing the garden for your own enjoyment, that activity and the fruits of that activity, to that degree it's not bhakti, right? How can it be bhakti? Because bhakti has to have the Swarup Lakshan, which we talked about yesterday, and that is what? Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam.
Uninterrupted.
Yeah, that's part of it. But anukul means for Krishna. It's favorable for Krishna. And we described how it actually means for Krishna's benefit. You're acting for Krishna's benefit. Generally, we always act for our own benefit in the material world. That's the problem. We get into so much trouble because we're just acting for our own self-interest. But that's unnatural for the eternal soul to act in that way. But Maya enables us to forget Krishna and act for our own self-interest. And then she reminds us of what? No, this is not good. Now you'll get pierced by her trident and other weapons that she has in her hand to teach us, you see. So, Jai Jai Shishi Radha Govinda. So, to act for our own interest is not bhakti. It can never be bhakti. You cannot mix your interest with Krishna and call it bhakti. But in the beginning stages, while someone is learning, this is not bad. This is acceptable for the neophyte devotee in that stage. And that's why Srila Prabhupada said, you can do so many things for Krishna. Just dovetail your desires with Krishna's desires, you see. So that's the beginning. And it will purify the devotee gradually. And then gradually he can understand deeper understanding, deeper Siddhanta, and so forth. All right, so now, householders should cultivate pure bhakti and not depend entirely on following the regulations of their individual dharma. What is the individual dharma? Grihastha dharma, right? Or, Brahminical dharma, Kshatriya dharma, like this. So householders are told here they should cultivate pure bhakti, not mixed. And they should not depend entirely on following the regulations of their individual dharma. And here he says something quite interesting. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, bhakti is not attained by remaining purely dependent on drinking milk or eating fruits. Rather, Bhakti Devi manifests by respectfully cultivating pure bhakti. But why he gave that example?
Using a mode of goodness?
Yes. Because sometimes people think, I am such a good devotee, I'm so pure, I drink only milk. You remember? In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's a story of a brahmachari born in Brahmin family who only drank milk. He was living on milk, very pure, right? Very pure from a certain point of view. Right? But he wanted to enter into Mahaprabhu's Kirtan Srivas Thakur's house. And he was kind of hiding to be in there. But then it was discovered by Mahaprabhu. It was discovered that he was there because Mahaprabhu felt the presence of someone who was not in his inner circle. Okay? And so that brahmachari was brought outside. And then when Mahaprabhu later saw that brahmachari, in an affectionate way, he chastised him. And he said, you should not think that this Krishna can be attained just by drinking milk or just by being a fruitarian, eating fruits. You see this in this world. Some persons think that by dint of that control of the senses and so forth in the mode of goodness, that then qualifies them for bhakti. So Mahaprabhu, he chastised him, but then he allowed him to come to the kirtan. So, the point that's being made here is that bhakti is not attained by remaining purely dependent on such types of sense control and all of that. Rather, Bhakti Devi herself, manifests by doing what? With great respect, cultivating pure bhakti. That is what brings her. Pure bhakti. Now, he's also telling another thing. Householders must not possess the conception of being Brahma. It is not allowed. I am Brahma. What is Brahma? You're saying the featureless aspect of the Absolute, the impersonal Brahma. Householders must not possess this conception. Because in India there's a lot of persons who harbor that conception and then they do certain limbs of bhakti, you see. But they still harbor that conception. Actually, those who are called Pancha Upasana worshippers, as described in the small book Bhakti Tattva Viveka, which Gurudev gave us, you see. They're even worshipping the form of Vishnu. But their conception in their worship is that I will merge. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is pointing this out. That householders must not possess the conception of being Brahma or Bhagavan, for this conception is offensive. The living entity is the servant of Bhagavan and not Bhagavan himself. Next point, householder Vaishnavas should follow the character of Mahaprabhu and his householder devotees. That's what the householder Vaishnavas are meant to do, is to follow them and their life, their character, their examples. He's saying that whatever is done to achieve loving affection for Krishna called Krishna Priti, whatever is done to achieve that, that is topmost. That is topmost. When one is acting with this objective to achieve loving affection for Krishna, Krishna Priti. And all activities performed to fulfill desires other than the desire to please Krishna, they will only strengthen material bondage. Do we want to be bound up? Do we want to be tied up like the prisoner with our hands and feet tied? Do we want that? Does that sound like a nice way to live? Not at all. So, all activities that are performed to fulfill desires other than the desire to please Krishna, they will only strengthen material bondage. So we see that neophyte devotees, they will become involved in doing many activities to fulfill their own desires, or they'll also deviate from the proper pathway as shown in Upadeshamrita and so forth. But what happens as a result of that? They become more and more bound. They become bound up by the illusory energy. They may be devotees, and they have some faith in Krishna, but because they're acting contrary, therefore Maya will bind them. There's no question of them actually advancing to higher stages and becoming free from material bondage. That cannot happen. For devotees, remaining as householders or renouncing their home is one and the same. For who? For devotees. For devotees, it is one and the same. Now he's going to explain. Rai Ramananda, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Srivas Pandit, Shivananda Sen, Satyaraj Khan, and Sri Advaita Prabhu, they perfectly exemplified how to live as householders and follow the path of pure bhakti. The only difference between householders and renunciants is how they maintain their life. They both perform the same activities of Krishna bhajan, Navavida bhakti, Nam bhajan, everything. They do the same. The difference is how they maintain their lives because they're in different ashrams. Now, if the Grihastha ashram is favorable for one's bhajan, then it is inappropriate to renounce one's home. If it is favorable for your Krishna bhajan, then it's not appropriate. It's inappropriate to renounce one's home. Adopting a mood of detachment, one should remain a householder. Not an attached householder, detached. The external change of ashram is not the most important thing. Because if that's favorable for the execution of bhakti, and one is becoming detached internally, then what? One should remain a householder. A householder devotee receives the eligibility to renounce his home when that home becomes unfavorable for Bhagavad bhajan. Very clear, huh? And at that time, whatever detachment, whatever vairagya arises at that time, that is true detachment, and it is favorable for bhakti. So in that condition, the householder devotee, he has been executing his activities of Bhagavad bhajan, but that devotee can receive the eligibility to renounce his home when that home becomes unfavorable for Bhagavad Bhajan. There are many examples. Our own Gurudev especially. Or our Srila Prabhupada. So many examples. Now, at that time, whatever detachment, whatever vairagya arises, it is true detachment. Real vairagya, real renunciation, and it is favorable for bhakti. Now, with this consideration alone in mind, Srivas Pandit did not leave his home. With this consideration alone in his mind. Which consideration? That as long as my house is favorable for Bhagavad Bhajan, no need to leave. So, he did not leave his home. And Swarup Damodar, he accepted sannyas. Both with the same consideration. What is favorable for Bhagavad Bhajan? For Srivas Thakur, he remained in household life. For Swarup Damodar, he renounced, but with the same consideration. We can see this consideration in the life of all devotees, isn't it? In the life of all devotees, we see this consideration. Those who have left their homes with this consideration in mind, they have advanced in the realm of sadhana very quickly. Srimad Mahaprabhu, now comes his instructions to Raghunath Das Goswami. Srimad Mahaprabhu instructed Raghunath Das Goswami on the behavior of renunciant Vaishnavas. These instructions must be followed by each and every renunciant Vaishnava. So now he quotes 3 verses. I'm reading these 3 verses. Vairagi koribe sada nam samkirtan, Magya kaiya kore jivana rakshan, Vairagi hoiya jeba kore parapeksha, Karya siddhi nahe Krishna korin upeksha, Vairagi hoiya kore jivar lalasa, Paramartha jai ar hoy raser vasha. Okay. Now what are these 3 verses meaning? You know that Mahaprabhu was asked by Raghunath Das Goswami through Swarup Damodar, because everything that Raghunath Das Goswami, from the moment that he came to Mahaprabhu, he was given over into the hands of Swarup Damodar Goswami. And Swarup Damodar Goswami became his guru, his Siksha guru. So then, but at one point, Raghunath Das Goswami wanted to hear directly from Mahaprabhu any instructions. So then Swarup Damodar Goswami approached Mahaprabhu with Raghunath Das and told him, and then Mahaprabhu spoke these instructions. It means a renunciant sadhu should ceaselessly chant Krishna Nam and maintain his life by begging alms. It is necessary for him to be independent, for without being independent, he cannot attain perfection in anything. Even Krishna neglects those who are dependent on others. One should protect oneself from becoming eager to taste palatable food, because through this, the sadhak is controlled by taste, which in turn destroys his bhajan. Now I'm just finishing it. Then he talks about Shak patra fal mule udar bharan, jivar lalase jay iti uttidai, shishnodara parayana Krishna nahi pai. One is to maintain one's body with vegetables, greens, fruits, and roots, and always chant Krishna Nam. those who neglect this and run here and there in order to satisfy their tongue. Such persons being devoted to the tongue and the genitals, they can never attain Krishna. Gramya Katha na shunibe, Gramya Varta na kohibe, Balo na kaibe ar, Balo na poribe, Amani manada hoya, Krishna nam sada labe, Vraje Radha Krishna seva, Manase koribe. This is the last shloka that Mahaprabhu told to Raghunath Das. Renunciant Vaishnavas should neither hear nor speak gossip, Gramya Katha, nor should they eat palatable foods or wear fine clothes. Not expecting any respect for themselves, they should offer respect to others while constantly chanting the name of Bhagavan with praying and serving Radha and Krishna within their mind. Braje Radha Krishna Seva, Manase Koribe. Serving Radha and Krishna in Braj by Manasi Seva. This is the instructions of Mahaprabhu. So, this is the basic instructions for renunciants. It also applies to the householder devotees, but this is specifically given not to wear luxurious clothing and so forth, not to eat palatable foods like rabri, Gurudev would say like this, like rasgulla, rabri and everything else. Is of course okay to eat, because we see that the devotees of Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, they would eat extremely palatable, wonderful Jagannath Mahaprasadam with gusto. Those feasts, spectacular feasts, you see. But that is in the mood of prasad seva. But if someone is always seeking, oh, I want to eat this nice tasting food, this nice tasting food, then it becomes a problem. All right, so we'll learn more about how to attain spiritual perfection in this pathway of pure bhakti and chanting the holy names of Krishna. Tomorrow we'll continue. Gaur Pramanabha.